program. Wherever you are located now, please ensure that you pay attention to this knowledge sharing exercise. I'm not going to take much of your time. In the first episode of this edition, we have dealt with reconciliation as a control management tool and underrated risk. And we had speakers who had actually taken us through management control system that will be able to prevent or minimize the risk. In the second edition of this program, we dealt with how to get input to the system, data correctness, data validation, completeness, and that is why we asked that question, are we cooking books? In today's edition, the subject matter is actually another big question, and it's more specific this time around. It tells us to a banking industry and the payments environments. We are looking at another question today, which has to do with ATM and EFT products. What is the big deal? Why are people talking about ATM, EFT products as a challenge when it comes to reconciliation? Why has ATM and EFT products turned to monster? And how can we tame this particular monster? In the house with me today, I have experts in the field who are going to be discussing this particular area of the subject. I have Mrs. Clara Alegbeleye. He is an accountant and a fellow of Institute of Chartered Accountants of Nigeria, well grounded in banking operation. He has over 15 years experience in banking operations. Currently, she is the head of reconciliation unit, Stanbic IBTC Bank, a member of Standard Bank Group. Mrs. Alegbeleye, you are welcome.
Thank you very much. Good morning, everyone. It's a privilege to be here today. I really appreciate that. Thank you.
You are welcome. Also with me today, I have another expert who is a Ghanaian. His name is Joshua Adam. He has background in IT operations, over 15 years experience, also in both banking and IT operations. Currently, Mr. Adam is the head Group Reconciliation and Balance Sheet Assurance of Echo Bank Group. Mr. Joshua Adam, you are welcome.
Thank you, BC. Thank you very much, BC. Good morning to everyone. I appreciate the opportunity.
Without taking much of time, I'll quickly remind us of the essence of reconciliation, that reconciliation is just a process of bringing to agreement different positions, fields, so that at the end of the exercise, a mutually agreed position can be ascertained. We also want to remind ourselves that the essence of reconciliation, the objective is the desire for harmony, the desire for agreement, and the desire for the true and fair view. Of our financial position. So in today's program, we go straight to the first aspect of the program. And that deals with what are these ATM reconciliations? What are ATM reconciliations? What are they? Why do people so fond of it? In the recent time, we have seen that people talked about ATM, I want to make use of ATM, I want to make use of ATM. I'm transacting business, paying for fuel in the gas station, paying for items in shopping mall. I'm using my ATM and this. What are these ATM transactions? I will call the attention of Mr. Joshua Adam to please do justice to this area. Mr. Adam, over to you.
Thank you very much, BC. And once again, good morning to everybody. So ATM transactions. What are ATM transactions? These are basic financial services that we undertake from the ATMs. The question has been, what is ATM then? So we can simply describe an ATM as an automated teller machine, basically an outlet device you go to access financial information, financial services without the aid of a bank representative or the representative of the financial institution. We tend to talk more about it in relations to banks because we are familiar accessing banking services, withdrawal of cash, checking of your balances, transfer of transactions between accounts. There are more new technologies today that even allows you to do transactions with tokens from the ATM, which are cardless transactions. And so, it's evolving. It's an evolving area that banks and financial institutions continue to exploit to provide services outside the banking hall to their customers. Now, the reason I said other financial institutions also use this because, we have the microfinances these days, we have the savings and loans. We have some of these other institutions that are beginning to adopt the use of the ATM to dispense some of their services outside block and mortar. So it's a service that, comes with a lot of advantages to financial institutions. And when done right, you are able to derive immense benefits from it. Now, let me add that reconciliation done for ATM transactions is quite not as straightforward as you would do for other banking services. Why? Because you have quite a number of points of failure. You have a remote machine that is dispensing cash, and therefore you would want to ensure that cash inventory is taken such that the ATM is able to account for the cash it dispenses, just like the teller will do at the branch. Then you have, because it's a remote outlet, you have network that the ATM uses to communicate between the various systems that are involved in the transaction in order to dispense cash. And you want to be sure that the information that is generated on the core banking solution, generated on the switch, and generated on the ATM agree to support the cash inventory you have taken in order for you to ensure that customers are adequately served and funds are adequately accounted for. So yes, reconciliation might be quite straightforward, but when it comes to ATMs, there are some technicalities that need to be taken into consideration to ensure that there is control over the dispense of funds and accounting for it.
Thank you very much, Mr. Adam. It has been observed that the ATM transactions have actually taken over the retail banking operations. Mrs. Alegbeleye, do you agree with this?
Yes, I do.
As part of your input to this question of ATM transactions?
Yes, thank you very much, Mr. BC. Yes, I do. And I can tell you that the level we're going into now, we are running on a channel, rather than before now. If you notice in the financial institution, we used to go by the number of branches you have. You understand? If you have like I have 100 and something branches, we have 200 branches. That has gone into the past. Now, you see banks opening e-channel. What do you call e-channel? These are where you have various ATM channels where you can go. You can see a customer, just go meet up with an ATM machine. You can do your transaction. If you like, spend 31 hour, do various transactions. Even you have means of depositing through this same ATM channel. You can withdraw, you can transfer, you can buy airtime, you can recharge. So the level we're going into now is that rather than people coming to branches to do, there's some self-service that can be done. An ATM channel is a good method of doing this. Thank you.
Thank you very much. That is the technology that has helped us and has given us the enabling environment when it comes to the ATM transactions. Thank you very much. Without wasting much time again, we go down to another area which has to do with EFT, electronic fund transfer transactions. What are they? To respond to this, we call on Mrs. Alegbeleye Clara to please explain to us what are EFT transactions.
Okay, thank you very much. So EFT, by the name, that's electronic funds transfer. These are a kind of a transfer of money from one bank account to the other, either with a single financial institution or across multiple institutions via computer-based system without any direct intervention of bank staff. That's just bringing it a simple definition, meaning that you can do various transfer. Some countries call it electronic checks. Some call it giro transfer. Some European countries, some call it e-transfer. That e there, that's the electronic means, meaning that don't need to go to the bank, don't need a physical bank staff to intervene. You can do your transfer and get it done, as you want. And part of things means like ATM we just described is a type of an EFT transaction, because we are saying you can go to a channel and deal your transaction like a self-service transaction. Now you can get results. We have direct deposit is possible, direct debit is possible. You can initiate even through telephone. You understand? Wire transfer, those are various types of electronic. It can be bill payments and an online banking. All this, you don't need to go physically to a branch, or you need to require or call attention of a bank staff to get it done. And we have even those running on instant payments. All you know is I'm transferring from here to a beneficiary. As you are transferring, your beneficiary is receiving the alert and telling you gotten. I can't imagine you have to drive to a branch, get to the branch, be on a queue. After being on a queue, then maybe by adventure you would have an error or something. You sit down, fill deposit slip for like 2-3 times, finally got it. So all those ones have gone to the past, and that's era that we are going into. That's where E comes in, electronic fund transfer. So we have various types, just like I've mentioned. We have the USSD, the unstructured supplementary service data, whereby all you need is just the channel. Most of the means being used are called channels. The card also is another means. All this, we have debit card, we have prepaid card, we have a credit card. There are various cards that you can use. Some even you can use if you travel. So you're not restricted to your country. Wherever you go, it's already prepared and you can make use of it. And you know, all this ATM and different, even via the web, when you're doing web services, for example, I know majority will be familiar with Quick Teller. All you need is just to put your card details. You get payment done immediately. These are web services. For mobile channel, we have like, because what we are actually working towards is, can you do this transaction yourself electronically without any error, and you get results and everything works successfully. So that's what this electronic fund transfer is all about. And as talking about acceptability, I can tell you customers are really accepting this, because though I know it's gradual, it can't be immediate, but with the rate of things, you have a level of comfort filling it up and dealing it without any stress. And when you have any challenge, you can quickly have a contact call to deal it up. So that's actually a basic definition of electronic fund transfer. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Alegbeleye. From what you have said now, you mean that I don't need a physical card, I don't need ATM card before I can do my transactions. So these are called, in some countries, they are called 24/7 transactions. Mr. Adam, please, can you explain to us what these 24/7 transactions are, and try to differentiate or juxtapose it with the ATM transactions that you mentioned in the ab initio?
Okay, BC, thank you for the opportunity. So, you know, the catchword for today's generation is convenience. People are ready to pay for convenience. And I think that one thing that has come to save the world today, especially in this era of COVID and all these other health-related challenges that we are experiencing, is the access to funds and banking or financial services through electronic channels. You have the mobile app that is accessible to you regardless the bank in which you bank. And I mean, once you have a card, you can download the app of any bank, connect your card to that bank's app, transact from the app as though, I mean, you were transacting with your bank. And I think this technological advantage is something that the ATM doesn't offer. For the ATM, you have to physically visit the ATM to get your funds, access to your funds, or access to the information or service you want to undertake. While for the other electronic channels, you do not need to go anywhere. I mean, from the comfort of your home, you are able to transact and pay for the service that is offered to you. It's 24/7 because regardless of whether it is a weekend, a weekday, a rainy day, a sunny day, you've traveled outside the country, wherever you are on the globe, you have access to the services that these electronic channels offer. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Mr. Joshua Adam. Our time is ticking. I will quickly move to another segment of this knowledge sharing series. And that is to say that, are there any operational challenges relating to these ATM and EFT transactions, despite the acceptance level and the like? Do we have any challenges, operational challenges or general challenges relating to these products? Mr. Adam, can you please quickly do justice to that?
Yes, BC. Indeed, I'm here to find a system that runs without challenges. Electronic, transactions are equally an area where we have operational challenges when conducting business. I've always said that reconciliation starts from planning your accounting entry. It doesn't start from when you receive your transactions, because by the time you receive your transactions, it's too late. And so the way you map your accounts, to the products and get transactions, dispensed into those accounts, could lead to, challenges that could make your books very messy. Imagine you go to withdraw money using your, how do you call it, Stanbic bank card from an EcoBank bank ATM, and you find out that you are debited with the tax, debited with other people's transactions on your account. I mean, it's confusing. So mapping of your accounts, if not well done, brings a lot of challenges. Then we have cases where transactions you undertake at the ATM fail. I mean, they can fail for many reasons. Network is not apt. Your ATM itself is misbehaving, goes on and off. Your card reader is failing. Something happens and truncates the transaction. In some cases, the funds has to be reversed instantly, but it doesn't get reversed instantly. And customers become aggravated, angry, and want to take some action. So yes, reversals, disputes as a result of transaction failure brings a lot of challenges. Is to also carry out investigations when these failures occur also comes with a lot of challenge, because you might not have access to all the information you require at a go. Now, another area where we have challenge is the continuous change in technology. And this poses very interesting challenges, especially if you are not apt with the changes in the space, technology space, pertaining to the provision of these services. You could expose yourself to some how do you call it, infiltration. Today we talk about information security, and if you are not operating with the right tools, you could expose yourself to hackers and all of that, and they could have access to your information via these electronic devices. So that also comes with its own challenges. Quality of integration. How are you able to transact from the card? The card transaction goes to the switch. From the switch goes to the ATM. If the integration is not properly done, it comes with its own challenges. You have, reporting and poor quality of data submitted to the account. If you provide me transactions that do not have quality references that enable me to reconcile transactions between all the data sources, that poses a challenge, because then I will not be able to reconcile my accounts. You have people challenges. The support you get from your vendor, the support you get from your staff, the staff who are looking to exploit, all of this come with their own challenges to the industry. And therefore, yes, we have quite a lot of challenges in this area, and it's very important that we are able to identify them and put the right controls in place to mitigate them.
Thank you very much, Mr. Adam. You have actually dealt with it extensively. And you have put it in a perspective that says the three-way term, PPT. Given the one related to people, given those challenges relating to process, and you have given challenges related to technology. So it means that in reconciling them, you have to take note of the finding solution to these challenges. You need to look at these three areas: the people, the process, and the technology. Mrs. Alegbeleye Clara, do you have any input to these challenges that Mr. Adam has identified?
Okay, thank you. Yeah, so like you said, we cannot do without challenges, and as time goes on, we manage the challenges, we see what we can do to deal it. Because whether we like it or not, one thing I noticed that as we're moving on, into digital world, there's no looking back. It's not a situation whereby I'm looking at possibility of going back to manual, going back to the old base. So the question is, how can we move on? How can we resolve it? How can we get things done? So challenges will come, but the question is, we must be ready to deal it. There are various challenges, and as they are coming, you are looking at another way. All we need is to put controls in place. That is the most important thing. You identify the challenges. What control can we put in place? Can we try as much as possible not to have a repeat of this very challenge? Okay, we're having volume issue. What can be done? You get in touch with vendor that have a system that can manage volume. Any business will tell you that where we are going to is about business expansion. Nobody is reducing business deals. We are getting more and more. So if you're already complaining about volume as at now, in the next 2-3 years, what should we be saying? So the readiness to see how can we resolve it, how can we deal it, so that as it's increasing, things can be done. I think that's the most important thing businesses need to look at, and the vendors that are supporting this. Thank you.
Oh, thank you very much for your response and your input. Your input has actually taken us to another dimension of this knowledge sharing series. That has to do with, reconciliation has been viewed as a control function, control and risk function. So it means that there are risks associated. How do we evaluate this risk that are associated with reconciliation of ATM and EFT products? How do we evaluate them? How do we assess them? To do justice to this, having identified challenges, we need to evaluate those risks, and reconciliation being a control function and a risk function. That is the main objective of doing reconciliation. Mrs. Alegbele will help us to do justice to how do we assess the risk of EFT and ATM product reconciliation. Over to you, madam.
Okay, thank you, Mr. BC. So just is like a continuity of what we're discussing. So when you have challenges, part of the work to be done is like necessary controls and to measure the risk. When you're saying risk evaluation, it's just about comparing a kind of estimated risk against a given risk criteria. Now, there's a system. Possible challenges may come up. What are the estimated risks? How can we measure this, and how can we try as much as possible to avoid a loss impact and exposure to the bank? Because that's the essence of the controls, the risk we are trying to put up, so that we don't have a negative impact. An institution may be making profits, doing very well, and at the end of the day, other known losses and a provision to be made will wipe out all the profits because there are no adequate provision or necessary controls in place to deal with this. So the risk control that is expected to be put in place, I will just work on it based on some identified challenges, just to be on a clearer perspective. For example, when you're talking of mapping products to accounts, mapping is very key, because when there are wrong mapping in the first place, that has even been a major issue. Example given by Mr. Joshua, talking about you just one way or the other, you just find a transaction on your account to be wondering, where is this one coming from? And before you know it, that can lead to something else. It can lead to immediate exposure. And when accounts are not properly mapped, at the end of the day, you see a wrong impact on the financials. Customer is like a current account being mapped to another internal account, mixing it up. Financial and record, everything will just be in a mess. When you're talking of volume, just like we have said, volume, if not well handled, we have some situation of missing transaction. It's a major challenge in the industry, because now we are saying we are going electronically. Everything you want to be done like a self-service run. For example, NIP, I'm transferring, you are transferring. Everybody from their different, I'm transferring in the midnight, in the morning, in the afternoon. I'm expecting immediate receipts by the beneficiary. And one thing or the other, there was a system glitch or something just happened, and transaction started failing or anything happened. Because whatever process you want to look, you look at the risk of, in case it's not successful, what do you do? That's a very, very major area. If it fails, what do we do? Is there provision for auto reversal? Is there provision for immediate identification? And let the customer, not until I will wait until the customer comes and start complaining. But when you're not talking of volume, if it happens and you are seeing thousands of transactions failing, that's a major risk. Because if it were to be one-on-one, you deal it one-on-one. Well, now you are doing it electronically, you are dealing with volume. So this is very important, and applications to be used to help with this must be able to accommodate volume, dealing with it, not that you are spooling and something is hanging somewhere. Before you know it, customer care everywhere is disturbed, call from here and there, talking about problems of failed transaction. And that goes to auto reversals as well. If there's no proper auto reversal in place, when there's a glitch or there's a problem, a transaction failed, like just myself and you, I'm trying to transfer a fund to a sister or just a recipient, and it didn't go. What do you expect? Give me my money back and let me do something else. But it goes. I did not receive it. You'll be receiving the call. I didn't receive it, but I've been debited. Before you know it, it's become something else. Imagine going to a filling station. I just want to buy a 5,000 watt. They said, no, I'm not, no, it doesn't go. No, it's not successful. No, it's okay. Can I have my money back? So, sorry, I've been debited. So this is a major issue that are really happening, and there is a very high risk, because at the end of the day, the financial institution is still the one that will bear the grunt at the end of the day. Issue of ease of investigation, it goes alongside with reporting. When there are adequate references, just like Mr. Joshua mentioned, where you're dealing with all this, there must be adequate, unique references. If, in fact, if there's nothing else as per reconciliation and the current electronic movements, reference is very key. Traceability will be possible. Ability to identify, investigation will be easy. Reporting, when the reporting is coming, it must be coming with uniqueness. I can say this is a transaction ID. I can investigate it. I can trace it. I can say, yeah, this is the date it was initiated. This is when it was concluded. This is what actually happened. It failed. It did not reverse. Okay, take an action. So if this is in place, it will be very, very seamless. But at the same time, we are talking of core application. That goes a bit technical, because if you don't have a high-level application in place and a proper supporting reconciliation application also to work together, it's another thing entirely. Because if you have an application where you have shown to the business that we have products, people come and do your transfer, and your application is failing repeatedly, I don't know how you want to manage that kind of customer complaints and all the rest. And it's going to be a major reputation issue, to both to the financial institution and everyone around them. So there are a lot of risks that have been mapped to this EFT transaction. And the most important thing is, can we put controls in place so that there's an estimated risk and we don't go beyond this, and we can manage our clients' impact. Well, just to mention before I conclude, issue of another major risk is about fraud. As much as we're saying, yes, we are going electronically, let me tell you that the other hackers over there, they have gone beyond you. As you are doing methodology of how can I get this, they are doing another methodology, how I can double get this. So the most important thing is that prepare yourself for it, and what can we do just not to allow this to go beyond the normal. So necessary controls have to be put in place, actually. Thank you.
Right, thank you very much, Mrs. Alegbele. To put it straightforward, you have said that should this identify risk crystallize, it will have consequence on your financial position. It will have consequence on manpower, on corporate image, and your business relationship with your customer. And of course, on your comprehensive income. Still on that risk assessment, I will want to ask Mr. Adam this question. Looking at the volatility of ATM and EFT transactions, how do you think, or how often do you think reconciliations should be carried out on this account? Taking note of the risk assessment that we have identified. Mr.
Okay.
Adam.
BC, left to me alone, you should be reconciling whilst the transaction is ongoing. Eh? You can imagine you have an ATM and the cartridges in the ATM have been mapped to the wrong cash notes that should be dispensed, and a customer requests for 100 naira, and all of a sudden 1,000 naira is dispensed. You can imagine the number of transactions, the queue that will be at that ATM, and by the time you get to know what is going on, you are empty. I mean, your cash is out, and people have just exploited your funds. So for me, the reconciliation as a form of control, if you can afford it, you should look for opportunities or solutions that give you almost real-time opportunity to reconcile. And again, that is where data quality comes in. What's the quality of data you have? What's your data retention policy? What's your how much volume, how much storage do you have on your ATMs to store your journals, to the point that your hard drive does not get full up and the machine begins to fail to submit journals. You need to look at this holistically in such a way that your controls are apt, to provide you as much information as you can get to carry out your reconciliations, to carry out your investigations, and as much as possible, real time is the best. If you can access your data real time and run comparison between the channels that are dispensing or providing you historical information to carry out your recon real time, perfect. But if you can't do real time, at least it must be daily. It must be daily.
Thank you very much for that submission. Apart from being daily, quite a number of people are clamoring for intraday reconciliation, at least. But that depends, just like you have said, that depends really on the availability of data. Once your data from various sources are available, then you can talk about real-time reconciliation. Thank you very much. Our time is ticking. We have identified risk. We have identified operational challenges relating to ATM and EFT reconciliations. Are there ways out of this trouble? Are there ways of taming this so-called monster? Are there ways of at least minimizing, even if you don't have a total 100% elimination of all these challenges, of all these risks? Are there ways out of this trouble? To respond to this, I'll call on Mr. Joshua Adam to please lead this particular area.
Yeah, BC, yes, thanks again. So indeed, there is a way out, and you need to be very deliberate in determining this particular way out. You can't leave anything to chance. Your key assets are your people, the people who are, supporting the reconciliation of the transactions as they happen at the ATM, happen at the electronic channels. They are your key assets. If you have disgruntled staff performing your reconciliation, you are in trouble, because they can divert funds within a twinkle of an eye. Funds that should be reversed to customers will be reversed to their private pockets. And so you want to have staff who are not disgruntled handling your recon. You want to have staff who are adequately informed and have experience. You want to have staff who are, trustworthy. You want to have staff who are not afraid to be innovative and provide their suggestions to the development of solutions within the space to make reconciliation a more prompt service. 2, you want to ensure you have proper policies that provide guidance in terms of how accounting setups should be done, how the mapping of cartridges on the ATMs should be done. You want to have policies that provide direct instructions or guidance on how data should be stored in your sources, your repositories. You want to ensure that your accounting entry plan is properly defined according to policy. You want to ensure that the way the accounts are mapped, you don't have, for example, one account mapped to receive MasterCard transactions, Visa transactions, China Union Pay transactions, and the like. I mean, that creates a mess. You want to have a policy that is concise and gives direction in these areas. Then you want to break the policies down to processes and procedures that give people direct instruction on what to do when situations arise, on how to go about the reconciliations, on how to go about the investigations, on how to handle disgruntled customers so you don't find yourselves in the hands of regulators. You want to ensure that the frequency of reconciling these accounts are properly defined. SLAs are provided to guide your people to ensure that the right things are done when it comes to the solutions. Then I'll finally speak to technology. And I would say today we are blessed to have automation, process automation. We have tools that can, support reconciliations. Like I've mentioned, there are cases where you can actually have real-time access to your electronic journal transactions rather than, continue publishing your journals on paper, going to the ATM to fetch your paper journals. You have tools that can access your transactions from electronic journals from your devices and make it available to you almost real time to carry out your investigations. You have tools that can give you three-way reconciliation information. They pick information from the core banking, pick information from your switch, pick information from the journals coming from the databases of the third-party solutions, and give you the opportunity to reconcile almost immediately without bothering yourself of which query should I run to download these transactions. And we need to take advantage of these tools to ensure that we have seamless flow of transactions that facilitate our ability to automate, to reconcile our books on time. I think that is what I would want to speak to at the moment. Thanks.
Right. Thank you very much. You have, to summarize what you have said, you have also classified the solutions or the way out, those that are related to people, those that are related to process, and those that are related to technology. Mrs. Alegbeleye, what do you think are the way out of all those risks that you have identified and the challenges that you have mentioned?
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Bisi. Okay, so in addition to what Mr. Joshua have said, there's always a solution to everything. There have to be a way out. So, and he has mentioned about people talking of the process of the technology. They are major area actually, and it's very, very important. So that the at least from our area, what you can control, what you can manage at your level can be put in place. We know the level we are going right now. As much as we are getting more digitalized in the world across, there are a lot of introduction of the robotic process automation that are being put in place. Now, as much as we're dealing with people, we know we can't depend fully on robots, but nevertheless, they are most of the application being used now, we need their access. What you need an individual to do, just like a reporting tool, that have to bring data from one place to the other. If a robot, what an individual would do, just spending some hours, a robot will pick it up there and get it across to you. So the RPA, robotic process automation, is a very good tool that is already in place, and more has still been expected. Necessary in the course of putting this up, necessary controls would have been put in place. For example, you have to check a balance against a transaction. When this rule do not go, stop. Necessary tools would have been put in place to ensure that computer is about giggle, garbage in, garbage out. Give me instruction, I go, I do it. When instruction is not aligned according to process, what do? I stop. So that has been very helpful with time. One, it helps dealing with timing issue. Then people can concentrate, because whether you like it or not, there's what we call a kind of a user interface that you still use to check, just to be sure everything is in place. And when there's an issue, you can easily pick it up. So that actually is the world we're going into. And though it links to technology, but at the same time, it's helping. Then the timing, you mentioned timing of reconciliation the other time, which, you measure the fact that if it's possible to be doing it every second, every minute. Look at the various sessions that we are having on all these our electronic platform. Before now, when you used to do T+1, we move it to 2+0. And like you said, T+0 is even cannot cope. It's per session now. And in the course of doing this, we are having some transaction-based reconciliation, whereby we are having challenges running an end of the. There are a lot of challenges supporting it, but the solution to this is that as much as we are bringing in new processes, the RPA process, the software robotic, the per second or per session reconciliation, we will also be catching it up with controls like a balancing check, transaction-based check. When rules are not conforming to robotic laydown, you stop and put a check. That will really help in a way, because as much as we're dealing with this, more are still coming. New things are being introduced. And from security point of view, cybersecurity is a major area that is even being looked into, so that you don't just depend on the laydown. You come into it from the perspective of information technology, how we can deal before it comes into reality. Thank you.
I thank you very much. There's anything that is very common in the submissions that both speakers have submitted here. It's all about automation. I imagine the volume of transaction that you are talking about that goes on an ATM machine, or the EFT product, how people transfer money, make payments, and the like. So I imagine a corporate entity or an individual doing this manually. So one of the ways by which you have identified here is that we require automation. And from what Mr. Adam said the other time, it's not just automation. So we have to look at an effective automation. Some are guru. I know some in the house, they are guru in they are Excel warrior. Like one of my bosses will say, they are Excel warrior. So, so we have to look at the tool, the automation that will be so effective and help us in solving or taming this monster. Thank you very much. Mr. Adam, I don't know, maybe you have one or two things to say on that.
Yes, BC. So I would want to finally add that there is also the need to associate with vendors who are well informed and well skilled to provide you with best practices in the industry, and also provide you with solutions that provide you the comfort and reliability that you need. Yes, you could have this tool, you could have the solution, but if your vendor doesn't give you timely support in the event that there are systemic failure, you have an issue. And it's key that you are able to address vendor support, vendor consultancy, implementation of solutions by the vendor, and you should have an internal process that manages change, such that if your vendor has come to do some good work for you, but there is an activity ongoing in-house that is going to impact the work your vendor has done for you, there should be an adequate process around the change management that ensures that you do not put your system out of sync and solution works perfectly. That's what I'll add to.
Thank you very much. Yeah, thank you very much, Mr. Adam. Thank you very much, Mr. Adam. We appreciate your submission as well. I have somebody in the house who is a professor in this field of reconciliation. He has done a lot of work on that and is still doing it right now. He's never tired or retired. May I please call on Dr. Yele Okeremi, the MD of Precise Financial Systems, to make his input to the subject matter.
Well, thank you very much, BC, and I hope everybody can hear me. I just came back in. I got bombed out by the network. First of all, I want to thank Joshua and Clara for taking your time to share your knowledge and your wealth of experience. I do not take this for granted at all. I thank you for being such wonderful teachers and friends of PFS through the years. And together, we are making Africa proud. I think we've had a very, very brilliant session today. I'm not going to try to repeat what anybody has said, but I think the big deal about EFT reconciliation and ATM reconciliation has been well spoken about. For those of us who are, older, some of us are, we remember the days of giving my tally number, particularly in Nigeria, when you had to take a mat to the bank, when you needed to go and withdraw money, or you needed to do any form of transaction. And we began to see the revolution, how things began, and how banks began to leverage on technology. And all of us will agree that, just like Clara said earlier, at a point, the strength of banks in Nigeria and all over Africa was, they will tell you we have 300 branches, and First Bank will claim we are the biggest, Union Bank will challenge them, and they were spending a lot of money building castles all over the place and claiming to run banking. And all of a sudden, we began to see banks coming to the fore, and they became branchless. Some of them had only one branch, and yet they are reaching millions of customers, all because of the use of technology. And this is made possible, just like Clara and Joshua rightly said, because of the use of channels. So now you can do pretty much any banking transaction, either from your mobile phone, an ATM, with a POS, and all sorts of things. And one of the things I have said in time past is that people are really not interested in having banks. People just want banking services, and they want to move on. And one of the areas that we know that has actually led to lots of problems we've seen globally, but particularly in our domain in Nigeria and in Africa, is that a whole lot of people want to do business. They don't pay attention to risk. They don't pay attention to possible challenges. They just want to grow big. They keep publishing. We have 30 million customers. We have 7 million downloads. We have done so much in the top line. And just like Clara said, they do not remember that it doesn't matter how much your top line is, everything can be eroded because you made certain mistakes in your judgment. And some of these mistakes are very little openings that you have created inadvertently, and people capitalize on them. And we know for sure that one of the easiest ways to capture these things, to keep the business afloat, is putting controls in place. I saw a question, somebody asked a question on the platform. What is the difference between reconciliation and control? And the answer is that reconciliation is part of the control functions that every organization must do. But if you understand how reconciliation is done, reconciliation is actually like the last man standing. So if we are talking about football, that is your central defender. And he may not be the striker, but believe me, that guy saves nations. That guy saves souls from hypertension and even heart attacks. That's exactly the way reconciliation is. Even though reconciliation may not be sales, even though reconciliation may not be treasury, reconciliation saves organizations. And so today, any organization, particularly the banks that is worth itself, its salt, must pay attention to electronic reconciliation. And if you take a look, and I'm happy you experts have done very beautiful work to the statistics, but I know that if you look at the volume and the value of transactions happening in any bank today, you realize that I think the Pareto principle is coming, where you have more than 80% of those transactions happening through channels, at least by volume. Even if not by value, but by volume. So we see that these are very essential things. And therefore, if you're having so many transactions happening, then just like Joshua said, the frequency must resonate with the frequency of the transactions, how you are doing control. And I do agree that today, the right thing to do for EFT transactions is actually see how you can do those things on the real-time basis so that you can pick up exceptions and proactively handle them. Because just like Clara also said, sometimes, you see, these are brand issues. It's not just about financial losses. They are reputational issues. Because your bank promises satisfaction. And if some of these things happen, the customers get dissatisfied. So these are things that we have to be aware of. And Joshua pointed out quality of data. I'm not going to talk about that, but that's pretty important. I have seen so many organizations, they put so many of these channels in place, but they do not carry the financial controller or the CFO along to appropriately do the things on the chart of accounts. Because all we are talking about begins from a proper structure in your chart of accounts. If the GL chart of account is unable to support the type of transactions you are doing, you are definitely automatically in trouble. And just the last rider is, the honest truth is, if you look at the volume that's going on and the value, it's impossible for any human being to attempt to do it manually. It doesn't matter how adept you are with Excel. You're just fooling yourself. And I say this all the time, particularly those of us who are supervisors and bosses. If you are relying on reports from your subordinates, you are not the boss. They are actually controlling you. The job of the boss is to control and direct. So you need to have tools that guarantee that the quality is in place. And part of these tools guarantee that it is consistent, both in process, both in reports, and even the interpretation of the reports. You don't want people coming, somebody comes from one bank and says, oh, this is how we are doing it in ABC Bank. Another person comes and says, this is how we are doing it in XYZ Bank. You need to be very clear at policy level, this is how it is being done in our bank. Quite a lot I can say, but I want to stop here, and I really want to appreciate everyone that has taken time to join us. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Doctor. Our time is fast spent. We appreciate that submission. While we are rounding up, may I please tell the entire house the question that was raised by Winye has been answered by Dr. Kremi. So the next edition of this knowledge sharing series is coming up on July 21st of this year. We are going to be dealing with operational risk management, the roles of accounts reconciliation. So at this point, I want to draw a curtain, but before that, let me appreciate Mr. Joshua Hadom. Thank you for coming. Akwaba. Mrs. Clara Alegbeleye, thank you. We appreciate your coming. We appreciate your experience that you have shared with us. God bless you. I want to appreciate my colleagues in the powerhouse, Jide, Wale, Obot, MIDMD. You have done very well. Thank you very much. See you by July 21st, 2022. God bless you all.